Hello everyone. I'm going to start to take class 4 BA program semester 2, Principle of Microeconomics 2. You have already have done in first semester Principle of Microeconomics 1, and there you have studied about demand supply, elasticity, consumer choice, and market structure. May you have studied about perfect competitive market. Okay. In this semester, what we have to do, actually in this semester, there are 4 units that you need to cover. In the first unit, there is a market structure. In the second unit, consumer and producer theory, then income distribution and factor pricing, input markets, and then international trade. What I'm going to do today, I'm going to start with the chapter monopoly. Okay. एंड आप लोग सभी लोग फर्स्ट सेमेस्टर में विद इन मार्केट स्ट्रक्चर यू हैव डन अबाउट the perfect competitive market only. Okay, but in this semester we will study about imperfect competitive market basically. And here the monopoly and in within imperfect competitive market there is the monopolistic competitive market and oligopoly. So, as we know that, let me say something about the market structure before starting the monopoly. And here, so within market structure, if we say that we know that within market structure, the perfect competitive market, perfect competitive market that you have done in the semester 1 is the one extreme. In the other extreme, on the other extreme there is the monopoly. ठीक है, इस दोनों के बीच में there are monopolistic competitive market and oligopoly. As we move in this direction, what happens that element of competitiveness decline. Okay, so one extreme there is a perfect competitive market, and on the another extreme there is the monopoly, and in between this there is the monopolistic competitive market and oligopoly. Today I'm going to start with this monopoly chapter. Okay, basically I'm first let me recall you something about the perfect competitive market, जिससे कि मोनोपोली को समझने में ज़्यादा आसान होगा, इजी होगा. So in the perfect competitive market, you have done in the first semester that there are large number of firms and who produces and sell the homogeneous product, identical product. Okay, and the firms have no market power. Single firms have no market power. I mean, in the sense that single firm can't influence the market price. Okay, there you have seen that there is an industry is just the aggregation of the firms. Okay, suppose there are thousand firms who are producing some homogeneous product X. Okay, so single firm can't influence the market price of X, but the aggregate of these thousand firms creates one industry for good X. Okay, so in industry, basically there is, as you know, the interaction of the demand and supply gives us the equilibrium price. And in the perfect competitive market, in industry, there is the demand for a good X, supply of good X, and this is the equilibrium point where equilibrium OP price per unit has been determined. And this price will be given to the every firm. Now under perfect competitive market जो है every firm जो है this price को charge करेगा, and the single firm can't change this price, can't influence this price. Okay, if the firm charge the price higher than this OP, then I mean the quantity sale will be zero because there is a perfect substitute available. for that good produced by the another firm, identical firm. So I mean, the consumer will move from this firm to the another firm to buy that good. So, so you have already have done all these things about perfect competitive market in the first semester. And let me recall you something about the marginal revenue, average revenue, कि जो perfect competitive market में क्या होता है. Since price is fixed, price charged by the firm is fixed, a single firm can't influence the market price. So in this case, under perfect competitive market, you have seen your price becomes equal to average revenue, which becomes equal to marginal revenue. Okay. Uh, Now, so we can say that firms don't have the market power. Okay, in the sense that a single firm can't influence the market price. Okay, now from here we start the monopoly, and we see that I mean, before monopoly, if we say some about the imperfect competitive market, I mean, monopoly is also the example of the imperfect competitive market. Monopolistic competitive market is also the case of the imperfect competitive market, and also the oligopoly. So in the case of the imperfect competitive market, there is basically the market power. Okay, let me say something about your syllabus first, then I will start this monopoly chapter. First, I want to say something, I want to share something about it. Okay. Okay, so in the first unit, the market structure, there are two subunits: theory of monopoly firm and imperfect competition. Okay, theory of monopoly firm के लिए जो है, जो book है, that is a chapter 13, cash and fair. Okay, for imperfect competition, that will include the monopolistic competition and the oligopoly, that is from Mankiw. And for another, I mean, all other chapter, there is the Mankiw you have to follow. For consumer and producer theory in action, market and market failure, for consumer and producer theory, there is the Mankiw. Another, again, income distribution and factor pricing input market can be Mankiw, and again, international trade can be Mankiw. So only for first chapter, monopoly, you have to follow the cash and fair, chapter 13, and for other chapters, you have to follow the Mankiw that you have also have followed in your first semester, the Mankiw. Okay. Okay, so that is this is the monopoly that is from the cash and fair. Okay, that we have to follow. So what I'm trying to say that in perfect competitive market का मतलब है that is the absence of the perfect competitiveness. Okay, there might be the competitive factor, but at the same time, the firms have some market power. Firms have some market power in the sense that firms can, single firm producing that good can influence the market price. Okay, like the case, if we say the case of the soft drink industry, take the example of Coke and Pepsi. Okay, they are, Coke and Pepsi are substitute to each other. Okay, but at the same time, there are the product differentiation. Okay, some consumer may choose Coke, some consumer may choose Pepsi, but at the same time, there is a competition. Okay, if the Coke suddenly raise the price, I mean, significantly, then it might be possible that some consumer may switch from Coke to the Pepsi. Okay, and similarly, it can happen with the Pepsi also. So, I mean, but at the same time, since Coke and Pepsi are the differentiated product, okay, besides the substitute to each other, then Coke industry has some market power, and Pepsi has some market power. Unlike the perfect competitive market, the homogeneous product, that is not the case of homogeneous product, that is the differentiated product. Okay, so in case of monopolistic competitive market, in case of oligopoly, I mean, again, there are the fewer number of sellers in case of the oligopoly, and which captures the market size. I mean, large market size. So again, they can influence the market price. That we will study about the monopolistic competition and oligopoly later on. But for monopoly, what are the, I mean, the requirement that we can say the pure monopoly, that is a single seller basically. There are single seller, there is a single seller who is producing the goods in the economy. So for pure monopoly with a single firm, that product produces a product for which there are no close substitutes. Okay, there are no close substitute available for the pure monopoly here. And another thing is that there are significant barriers to entry, which prevents the firms from entry and to create a competition. So these are the two main factors which lead to pure monopoly. First है single firm है, and जो single firm जो product को produce कर रही है उस product का कोई close substitute नहीं है. Then another thing is that new firms can't enter the market. Okay, there is a significant barrier that we will again study about what would be the reason for the barriers for the entry of the new firms. But here, if the new firm can't enter the price, the single firm is still capturing the market. So there is a that is these are the I mean the we can say the factors which can lead to the pure monopoly. Okay. Now, I mean, there is one example here about the hamburger. That is the brand X hamburger, brand Z hamburger, brand Y hamburger might be possible. Okay, but I mean, hamburger as a whole, we can here here just say, I mean, the perfect competitive market for the hamburger in that sense, we can say. But if it happens, then you know that the firm will face this demand curve. But hamburger as an industry will face the downward sloping curve. Just say, I mean, similarly, we have seen अभी जो हम perfect competitive market के बारे में थोड़ा सा देख रहे थे, तो industry is the aggregate of the firms. Okay, single firm can't influence the market price, but so single firm face the demand curve that is parallel to the horizontal axis. That is the perfectly elastic demand curve. But in industry where the price is determined within the perfect competitive market, under the perfect competitive market, in industry, the aggregation of these firms है, they face the downward sloping demand curve, and once the price is determined, that is given to the every firm. So here now, if we say something, we are going to see about the price and output decision in pure monopoly market. Here we will see that the demand, and basically, if we see the marginal revenue is different from under the monopoly, different from the marginal revenue under the monopoly market. So here, I mean, since let me say something about again here. Mhm. Okay. Uh, what I'm trying to say that in case of the perfect competitive market, what we have seen that uh, that is the industry, that is the aggregation of the firms. Okay, and this is the firm who is the price taker. But in case of the monopoly, suppose that here the case of the 1,000 firms who are producing the identical product X. Okay, now suppose that there is one monopoly who is producing this good X, and who are the owner of these 1,000 farms. Just think like that. Okay, or we can say that so it means that जो owner है, I mean जो producer है, जो seller है, they have this 1,000 plants, and using these 1,000 plants producing and selling the good eggs. So this I mean the seller now, this seller is now monopolist, and this seller is I mean facing this condition, downward sloping demand curve, downward upward sloping supply curve. Not like that single firm here who is the price taker. Now a monopoly is here. Okay, so we can say that in case of the monopoly, which itself the industry, the monopoly, unlike the firm under the perfect competitive market, faces the downward sloping demand curve. Okay, that is the under the monopoly, which is the firm or industry itself. Now, but under the perfect competitive market, what was the case? Under the perfect competitive market, single firm के लिए जो है demand curve जो है, that is parallel to the horizontal axis that we have done in the first semester. Okay. And also that I mean here that is the price, and here that becomes equal to average revenue, that becomes equal to marginal revenue in case of the perfect competitive market. But we will see in the case of the monopoly what happens to the marginal revenue and the relationship between average revenue and marginal revenue here. So, price and output decision in pure monopoly markets. First, we see something about demand in monopoly market. Okay, and from there we will relate the marginal revenue with market demand. So first, suppose that this is the table, and on the basis of this table, we are drawing something about the marginal revenue. Okay, so I mean, the first column represents the quantity, different quantity here produced and sold, and second column about the price per unit, and third column about total revenue. As you know that total revenue is the product of price and quantity sold, and marginal revenue, that is the additional total revenue due to selling of the additional goods, means of the good. So I mean, from zero, if we start $11 here per unit, so on. So we know that here, okay, monopoly has the market power. Seller has the market power under the monopoly. They just single seller. But if the here monopoly wants to raise the supply or selling of the good, then monopoly has to decrease. Monopolist has to decrease the price. Okay, to sell more goods. Okay, so. I mean, as you know that that is the I mean the law of demand. I mean, there's inverse relationship between price and quantity demand. So that's the thing. If the monopolists want to raise the selling of the goods, then monopolist has to decrease the price of that per unit of that good. So like what if the for the first unit the price is 10 per unit. For the 2 units, if the sale, suppose that price is now 9 per unit, so on. For 10, the price is 1 per unit. So from here, total revenue, you know that price into quantity. So just multiply this two column, 1 and 2, you will get total revenue. Okay, this is the total revenue. And you know that you can see here that total revenue is increasing from 10 to 18, 18 to 24, then 28, then 30. After that, it becomes constant, then after that, it starts to decrease. Okay, and what about the margin revenue? Margin revenue is that is the difference, that is a change in total revenue due to change in the quantity. I mean, units of the goods selling here. So I mean, 10 minus 0 divided by 1 minus 0, that is the margin revenue 10. For second unit, the margin revenue change in total revenue is 8, and change in total units of 1, so that is the 8. So we are finding here the margin revenue is continuously declining, or यहाँ पर 0. After that, it becomes starts to become negative. Here, I mean, see, what is happening that if the, I mean, monopolist wants to sell the 2 units of the code, then monopolist has to charge 9 per unit. Okay. Now, from here, if monopolists want to increase the selling of the code here by 1 unit, then monopolist has to decrease the price per unit by 8. Okay. So what does that mean? By increasing the selling of the goods from 2 to 3. Okay, so revenue will increase, but at the same time, due to decrease in the price of the good, per unit of the good, the revenue will decline. But ultimately, the increase is greater than this decline due to decline of this price. So offsetting this decrease in the total revenue due to decrease in the price. So ultimately, total revenue is increasing. But after some point, after I mean 6 to 7 unit, you can see that now total revenue started to decrease. So what we can say that the relationship, I mean, average revenue, I mean, let me say something about here. See, average revenue always equal to price. Doesn't matter whether it is the perfect competitive market है या monopoly है या monopolistic competitive market है. It always becomes equal to the price, because average revenue is the ratio of total revenue and quantity, and total revenue is the product of price and quantity. So it always becomes equal to price. Okay. Now, and average revenue also represent the demand curve for industry. Okay. Now here, in case of the monopoly, what is happening that if you see again here, Okay, if we see here that what is happening that total revenue, I mean, here the relationship here we can see between the total revenue and marginal revenue. When marginal revenue becomes zero, total revenue becomes maximum, and after that, I mean, the total revenue, I mean, when marginal revenue becomes negative, total revenue starts to decline. Here, if we can draw the relationship between the average revenue and marginal revenue here, average revenue that represents, I mean, from the second column, that is the average revenue becomes equal to the price. Okay, when price is zero, quantity is zero. When price is 11, then quantity is zero. When price is 1, quantity is 10. And on this basis, we can draw the average revenue that demand curve is here. Okay, so we can say like that the relationship between average revenue and marginal revenue in case of the monopoly is like that, is like that that price, quantity, this is average revenue. Okay, and marginal revenue at some unit it becomes zero, and after that it becomes negative. Okay, at the sixth unit it becomes zero. Okay, and after that it starts to I mean, it becomes negative. And when marginal revenue is zero, total revenue is maximum. So if we see the case of the total revenue, the shape of the total revenue here, it will be like that. Start with zero when quantity selling is zero, then it becomes maximum at here when marginal value becomes zero. Okay, and after that it starts to decline. Okay, so this is the, I mean, the relationship between average revenue, marginal revenue, and total revenue. Total revenue. Okay, so here the average revenue and marginal revenue and total revenue here, and when marginal revenue becomes zero, total revenue becomes maximum. Okay, but what okay, this column here, this table represent here, this table represent about the price, quantity, total revenue, and marginal revenue. And we can see that, with the output increasing, total revenue is increasing, but after some time it starts to decrease. But ultimately, uh, at what output, I mean, what would be the profit maximizing output for the monopolies? I mean, if you recall, for perfect competitive market, perfect competitive market, you already have done under the perfect competitive market for profit maximizing condition under the perfect competitive market. And what we do that perfect competitive market में condition क्या था for profit maximizing? That was when marginal revenue becomes equal to marginal cost. Okay, as you know that, see, marginal revenue is the additional revenue. Okay, increase in revenue, we can say due to increase in the output. Okay, increase in revenue due to increase in the output, increase in revenue due to increase in the selling of the goods. And marginal cost is, here, or we can say just say the change in total revenue due to change in output selling. And marginal cost is change in total cost due to change in goods production of the goods. So here, basically, if the case is that marginal revenue, if is greater than marginal cost, it means that by producing or selling of the extra units of the goods, the revenue जो firms को industry को मिल रहा है under perfect monopoly, that is greater than the cost of production of that additional goods. So what will monopolists will do? Monopolists will increase the output. Okay, because as you know that if we start from profit, profit is the total revenue minus total cost. Okay, and marginal revenue minus marginal cost is marginal profit. Marginal profit. So if marginal revenue is greater than marginal cost, if marginal revenue is greater than marginal cost, then we can say that additional जो revenue है by producing and selling of the good is greater than the cost of production of that additional goods. So marginal profit is here positive. Marginal profit is positive. So profit derived from that additional goods by selling is positive. Okay. So the monopolist would like to expand the outputs. On the other hand, if the marginal revenue is less than marginal cost, then in this case, the additional revenue derived from that good up by selling is less than the cost of production of that additional goods. So in that case, the marginal profit is negative. Marginal profit is negative. So there is a loss, we can say. So here the monopolist would like to decrease the production of the goods. So ultimately, again, just like the perfect competitive market, here the profit maximizing condition will also be the same when marginal revenue becomes equal to marginal cost. Okay, that is the case. Okay, the equilibrium condition. I mean, in case of the, equilibrium price and the equilibrium output in case of the monopoly will be different from that of the perfect competitive market. What I'm trying to say that here, in the case of the perfect competitive market, जो है, for single firm, you know that. मार्जिनल रेवेन्यू becomes equal to average revenue और ये डिमांड कर रहे हैं फॉर फर्म के लिए अंडर परफेक्ट कॉम्पिटिटिव मार्केट अंडर परफेक्ट कॉम्पिटिटिव मार्केट okay and if this is the marginal cost curve you know that this will be the equilibrium this will won't be the equilibrium क्योंकि इसके बाद अभी marginal profit positive है that we have done in the first semester so that is the equilibrium condition here under perfect competitive market single firm is producing this much and of course the firm is price taker but here in case of the monopoly the situation is different. In case of the monopoly, average revenue is not equal to marginal revenue. Marginal revenue is, here, marginal revenue is different from average revenue, and not only different, but here the marginal revenue less than the average revenue. Marginal revenue is less than the average revenue for every use of the goods. So the relationship between average revenue, marginal revenue को भी हम लोग देखे थे, and on that basis we can find out the profit maximizing condition for under the monopoly. So here, in case of the monopoly, if the condition is like that, output quantity of output price average revenue is this because this monopoly seller is facing the industry okay and industry may perfect competitive market maybe they face the downward slope but the firm is facing the parallel to the horizontal axis down demand curve okay so but in case of the monopoly here average revenue here and marginal revenue is like that and less than the average revenue. Okay. So here, suppose that average total cost is, if we see here in this diagram in the book, you can see here that is the case. Okay, if we show this diagram here, profit maximizing condition under the monopoly here, okay. Now suppose that average total cost is like that. Average total cost is like that. Okay, and okay, just let me go. Okay, so here average total cost is like that, suppose that. Okay, and marginal cost is suppose that like that. Okay, so I mean, for profit maximizing condition under the monopoly, this is the point. This is the point E, where marginal revenue becomes equal to marginal cost. Okay, so here the monopolist would produce and sell this much units of the output. Okay, and suppose OPM, that is the monopolist output, and price charge will be on the demand curve, demand faced by the seller here, and the demand curve for the buyers here, and the price charged by the monopolist per unit is this much. Okay, and what is the profit here? If you see that, suppose that this point is A, this point is B, this point is C, and suppose also that this point is D. Okay, what is the profit area here? Profit area, I mean, you know that profit which becomes equal to total revenue minus total cost. Okay, what the area here represents the total revenue. Total revenue, you know that total revenue is the product of price and quantity. The price is OPM per unit and output produced and selling is जो है OQM है. So we can say that OPM AQM, this area OPM into OQM, OPM AQM represent the area for the total revenue. So total revenue is area OPM AQM. Okay, and what about the cost, total cost? Here in this diagram, जो है average total cost है, and you know that average total cost is the ratio of average total cost is the ratio of total cost divided by output. So you know that total cost is average total cost into output produced. And so here, for this much units of the output, okay, for this units of the output, here average cost is this BQM into OQM. So this, I mean, a total cost we can say area OCBQM, OCBQM. So total cost is area OCBQM. So profit we can say that total revenue minus total cost. So area OPM AQM minus area OCBQM. What is the area which represents the profit here? You can see that. You can see that OPM AQM minus OCBQM. So we can say that area CPMAB, it represents the profit for the monopoly. Okay, this is the profit for the monopoly. Okay, so we can say the profit area here for monopoly is CPMAB, CPMAB. Okay. Now, suppose that price charge here by the monopoly is 6, output produced is 5, average total cost here is, let's say, 4.50 per unit, and marginal cost and marginal revenue here, marginal cost is 2. Okay, so if we have to find out the profit area, so we can find out first. We can I mean either way you can just take this area. Okay, I mean calculate this area. Okay, or on the another way, the total revenue here, total revenue here is price into quantity. So 6 into 5 is 30 is total revenue. And what about the total cost? Total cost is average cost is this. into quantity. So 4.50 is average cost into output 5. So 22.50 is the total cost. So profit, we can say that 30 minus 22.50, that will be 7.50. Or on the other hand, I mean, another way, you can just calculate the profit from calculating this area of CP. What is the area? The area of this rectangle, that is profit area is 6 minus 4.50 into this 5. That will be the, I mean, 7.50. Okay. So this is the profit under the monopoly. So you can just, I mean, see here, under perfect competitive market, the average revenue itself becomes equal to the margin. Average revenue becomes equal to the margin. But in case of the monopoly, marginal revenue is different from average revenue. It is less than average revenue. And why marginal revenue is different? Because for every unit selling by the monopoly, if the monopolies have to increase the selling, monopolies have to decrease the price. Okay, but in case of perfect competitive market, I mean, at the same fixed price, the firm, the price taker hai, the firms can sell any units of the food. So that was the case where the margin revenue was constant, but here the margin revenue changing due to changing in the price for increase the selling of the goods by the monopolist. So, and due to this condition, I mean the shape. I mean, we can say the okay, margin revenue becomes equal to marginal cost is the profit maximizing condition for profit perfect market के लिए monopoly के लिए. Okay, but the final condition is different. Okay, due to difference, I mean, of average revenue and margin revenue here. Now, here we can compare the monopolist with perfect competitive market. Perfect competitive market. Okay. Okay. First, before that, I'm going to say something about the absence of supply curve in the monopoly. Okay. What does mean that in case of the perfect competitive market, if you recall, जो है in case of the perfect competitive market, the sum of the marginal cost curve of the firms, or first we say the marginal cost itself represents the supply curve in case of the perfect competitive market. Under the perfect competitive market, there you have seen that if price, quantity, of course margin revenue, marginal cost also here, and this is the price line, marginal revenue becomes equal to marginal cost. Okay, and of course that let me draw here, it should be parallel to the horizontal axis. Okay, the price line is this, and here this price becomes equal to average revenue, marginal revenue, and suppose that this is the marginal cost. So perfect competitive market, under the perfect competitive market. So this is the equilibrium condition, and here the firm will charge, of course, this price. The firm is price taker and produce this much units of profit. Now, suppose that from somehow price has increased in the industry. Suppose that due to increase in demand, so in the industry the price will increase. So again, the firm will be the price taker. Firm will charge now higher price from starting from P1 Q1 to P2 Q2, Q2 Q2. Now the another equilibrium is here, P2 Q2. Now suppose that further if price increase from P2 to P3, then another equilibrium is here and Q3. So that was the case under the perfect competitive market that you have already studied in first semester. I'm just going to recall you. Okay, so here, what is exactly the supply curve? Supply curve gives us the relationship between price and quantity supplied. Okay, so at price, the price OP1 per unit, quantity supply is OP1. When price is OP2, quantity supply is OP2. When price OP3, quantity supply is OP3, production of OP3. So this, I mean, the marginal cost above this point, we can say that here it is the supply curve. It is the supply curve. So under the perfect competitive market, marginal cost represents the supply curve. And for industry के लिए sum of the marginal cost for every firm represent the supply curve for the industry. But in case of monopoly, we can't find, I mean, the single, there is the absence of supply curve in case of the monopoly. Why? Because here, I mean, in case of the perfect competitive market, firms are the price taker. Okay, so there is some definite shape of the demand curve that is parallel to the horizontal axis. Okay, but in case of the monopoly, price will not depends upon the supply, but also the demand. I mean, unlike the perfect competitive market, firms के लिए जो price fixed है, but in case of the monopoly, the price will also depend upon the shape of the demand curve. So we can't find particular supply curve here. There is absence of the supply curve in case of the monopoly. Suppose that we take one case here with price, quantity, and suppose that this is one demand curve AR1. Just हमने अभी कहा था demand curve is similar, that is the average revenue, and suppose that this is the marginal revenue curve, and suppose this is the marginal cost curve. So this is the equivalent point. This is the equivalent point, and monopolist will produce this much units of the output and charge this much price. Suppose. Okay. Now, अगर demand curve का shape अगर change हो जाए, okay, let's say the shape of demand curve is like that. Shape of demand curve is like that. Oh. Shape of the demand curve is like that. Okay, now this is, now accordingly marginal revenue curve will change. Suppose that this marginal revenue curve is again passing from this here. Oh, I think I need to draw again. Okay, this is the initial demand curve. This is the initial demand curve, and from here, so on the basis of this demand curve, there is the marginal revenue curve. Okay, and there is the marginal cost. So equilibrium point is at E, and monopolist will charge this price. Price is OP1 per unit and produces this much units of output. Now suppose that demand curve faced by monopolist is like that. AR2, and marginal revenue accordingly is like that. MR2. Okay, again equilibrium is at the same point E, but what about the price? Price now according to this demand curve AR2, and now monopolist will charge different price OP2 per unit. So we can't find the definite relationship between price and quantity supply here. How much the quantity will be produced and price will be charged, that depends upon the shape of the demand curve. Unlike the, I mean, perfect competitive market, the shape of demand curve that is the parallel to the horizontal axis, and that becomes equal to the marginal revenue. So there was not the problem here. There was not the issue here. So the marginal cost here represents the supply curve. Another, I mean, the case here we can see Another case, in case of this monopoly, through another diagram, we can see here that suppose that through the another diagram, we can show here why there is the absence of the supply curve in the monopoly, price, quantity, and let's say the demand curve is like that. Marginal revenue accordingly is this, okay, and suppose that marginal cost is this, okay. Now, so a price charged by the monopolist is OP1, and output produced is OP1. Okay. Now, suppose that here there is another demand curve, uh, and the condition is like that. Let me draw first. Another demand curve is like that. Another demand curve is like that, AR2, and accordingly, marginal revenue is like that. Marginal revenue is like that, MR2. Okay, so now the new equilibrium, initial equilibrium is what E1. Now the new equilibrium is at point E2. So at this, I mean, for this equilibrium, the price level will be the same, OP1. But what about the output? Goods, that is Q2 changing. So at the same price, different quantity, and here you can see for the same output, the different price. So that depends upon the shape of the demand curve here, unlike the perfect competitive market who faces the shape demand curve that is parallel to the horizontal axis, and marginal cost itself represent that there we can see find the definite relationship between the price and quantity supply, price increase, quantity supply increase, price decrease, quantity supply decrease. And here we can't find any such thing like that. So there is the absence of the monopoly, in absence of the supply curve in the monopoly. I think I'm going to finish here. Then in the next class जो है फिर further monopoly को ही आगे करेंगे. Okay. Okay. Bye then.